can be a great people, Kal-El. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show the way. For this reason, above all, their capacity for good. I have sent them you, my only son.
Hey YouTubers, Hankster here, and welcome to our final video of our Superman movie marathon. And in this video we're going to be focusing on to review Superman Returns, starring Brandon Routh, Frank Langella, and Kevin Spacey. Now, of course, unlike the previous 4 Superman movies, this was not produced by the Salkines, and of course, obviously not directed by Richard Donner. But of course, the actual director, Bryan Singer, who of course is best known for his work in the first 2 X-Men movies, was chosen to do this movie. And basically he chose the direction of basically paying homage to Richard Donner's work in the first and second Superman movies, and pretty much making this more of a sort of a Richard Donner dedication movie rather than purely a Superman movie. Of course, borrowing tons of elements from Donner's work. Of course, especially using voice tracks done by Marlon Brando when he did his role as Jor-El in the first 2 movies. Of course, by this time in 2006, Marlon Brando had passed away, and obviously wasn't able to reprise the role vocally or in person. Now, of course, there was a lot of good aspects to this movie. I say this did not do as badly as Superman 4, but I think it's somewhere in between Superman 3 and Superman 4 when it comes to good stuff, bad stuff. I mean, they did pick a good actor to play Superman. Most of the other actors and actresses did a pretty good job. Kevin Spacey was pretty good as Lex Luthor, not as good as Gene Hackman, but as I say, of course, I think the worst person in the movie past the kid in this whole thing was the actress who they chose to play Lois Lane. She definitely was no Margot Kidder. If you wanted to get, basically go into redoing, having something close to what Richard Donner did, they should have had somebody that would have resembled and acted like Margot Kidder's Lois Lane rather than try to do something new. There was, of course, a couple other familiar actors, though, that none of the original movie actors and actresses were not in it, but the original actress who played Lois Lane in the Superman television series back in the 1950s, she, of course, played the role of the rich old lady that Lex Luthor befriended just so he could get her money. And, of course, the original actor who played Jimmy Olsen in the same show was the bartender in that movie as well. But they were pretty much the only Superman veterans in this movie, outside of the voice of Marlon Brando being used. I think they pretty much tried to do a lot of things. I mean, mostly trying to, I guess, always pay homage to Richard Donner. Even though, I mean, if they wanted to do something in the vein of Richard Donner, they could have gotten Richard Donner to direct it. He's still alive, so if they wanted to do something in that vein, they should have got the original director to do this. It's probably not that hard. Another thing that kind of ruined this movie, obviously, was the kid in this movie. This weak kid who, of course, we wind up realizing that, he might be Superman's kid, and there's this that constant theme of the father becomes the son becomes the father, blah, blah, blah. That was not needed. I know this is supposed, if anything, this is supposed to be have happening after Superman 2 at least. They're ignoring what happened in Superman 3 and 4, and obviously Supergirl, and they're just chucking this in there as the events after number 3, even though it's supposed to take 5 years after that. And I don't know, I just think that there was no use of having that Superman kid element in there, which, they don't even have it in the comic books. I mean, as close as they had to Superman and Lois Lane's child was a daughter, so in the comic books, as far as I know. But you just had this kid who basically had no entertainment value whatsoever, and that pretty much ruined it. Also, once again, relying on the old Superman villain formula. Let's have either Lex Luthor or Zod in this production raises its head here instead of trying out another Superman villain that's never been done before in a movie. Let's go back to Lex Luthor, and of course Gene Hackman's still alive. They could have still used him, and he was lost enough hair. He probably wouldn't mind shaving it to play bald. I mean, not to put down Kevin Spacey, but and to just basically have him steal Kryptonian crystals to try to create a new source of land on Earth, so that and that put the Earth in jeopardy and everything. That's kind of weak in itself. Though Superman going off and then coming back and trying to be reacquainted with the people of Earth, I think that's a pretty good thing. They could have done better with that rather than all this other stuff. And I mean, this would have been a perfect good time to have Brainiac, or something that would attack. Brainiac could have tagged along with Superman when he came back from Krypton, or the remains of Krypton, something like that. Just throwing in Lex Luthor just to be sort of nostalgic of the Superman movies. That's Lex Luthor's had his run in the Superman movies. Let's get some other villains in here. Special effects was pretty good, especially the part where Superman saves the plane where Lois is in. That was pretty good. I kind of like that. And Brandon Routh did play a good Superman. I mean, even though, of course, he was probably picked because he looked like, obviously looked like Christopher Reeve in most sense. But he did his best. He did a good job of playing his version of Superman as well. But I don't know. It kind of ruined everything that was going on, because I mean, obviously this comes out a year after the successful Batman Begins. It's been 20 years. It was 20 years before, after the last Superman movie, and of course this is right during the run of Smallville. And all, and this movie did get greatly hyped. It was even a Superman documentary on the History Channel that's now on DVD that came out right along with this movie, and all. But I think, in my opinion, that they could have done better with a lot of aspects of this movie. They could have just, as I said, take out the Superman. Is this Superman's kid idea? Could have improved the villain idea, have a different villain rather than Lex Luthor. Just focus on the aspect that's Superman's return. He's trying to get himself reacquainted. That could have worked a lot better in a lot of good ways, and have maybe Brainiac or Darkseid or some sort of villain that tagged along with him when he returned to Earth. That kind of thing. Not make it some sort of Richard Donner dedicated movie with let's also dedicate this to Marlon Brando, type thing. But yeah, of course, another thing. A lot of people call this a reboot. It's not a reboot. It was basically a continuation of the Superman movies, at least after Superman 2. It was just a different director and different production company and everything that did it. This is not a reboot. What's coming up next year in Superman, Man of Steel, that is a reboot. that will be a reboot. This is probably not going to have anything to do with the previous movies at all, and it's going to go its own way in a new storyline and all. But of course, we'll have to find that out next year when Superman: The Man of Steel hits theaters in 2013. And I hope you enjoyed not only this, but also the other Superman movie reviews that I've had this week. And stay tuned here for more reviews and whatnot here on the Multiverse. See ya.